Hello! Start again. It's the English accent. Hello! That's what I've got to do. Hello and welcome back to Newfoundland. Top of the morning to you, to be sure, to be sure.
You just about got my head in.
Oh, wow, God. Hello and welcome back to Newfoundland. Top of the morning to you, to be sure, to be sure. You're still dropping off. Hello and welcome back to Newfoundland. Top of the morning to you, to be sure, to be sure. Okay, Paul, why are you speaking in an Irish accent, I hear you ask? Well, I'll tell you.
Hold on.
What?
Who's asking?
Who's asking what?
Well, there's literally no one around us. Who's asking?
Who's asking what?
About the Irish accent.
Well, no one's specifically asking, but they would if they were here. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, moving on. One of the reasons why I thought I'd throw in another impression was after the wonderful comments I received from the last video about my David Attenborough impression.
Hold on. What comments?
Well, people comment on the video.
I've seen the video and there's been no comments on the video. I've had comments on my Facebook page,
Right.
saying that they're very sorry that you'd got a sore, sounded like you had a sore throat and you needed to suck on a fisherman's friend.
I don't know any fishermen. Okay, well, the main reason that I was speaking with an Irish accent is because we are on the Irish Loop. The Avalon region, like all other regions of Newfoundland, has scenic drives. The three main scenic drives in this region are the Irish Loop, the Backlieu, if you say it like that, Backlieu Coastal Drive, and the Cape Shore Drive. And it really does feel like you are in Ireland, with the beautiful coastline and all the Irish accents that we hear as we travel around in this area. Despite the challenging weather, we have managed to complete the Irish Loop and enjoy a number of hikes along the way, including a number of sections of the 336 kilometre long East Coast Trail. Okay, so today we are in a place called Briggers South. It's one of many small little fishing harbours that are found all around the coast of Newfoundland. It's really good now to see that the crab fishing boats are actually out to sea. When we arrived on the island, the crab fishing season should have started, but hadn't, because there was a big dispute going on over the price of crab. We're not sure of all of the details. I think there was just two parties arguing, trying to come to an agreement. One had got a clause on this side that they weren't happy with, and one had got a clause on this side they weren't happy with. So there were two big clauses fighting against each other. But fortunately, we spoke to a spokesperson, and they said that they're very pleased that the whole matter's been resolved, and otherwise the situation could have gone sideways.
Oh my God.
What?
Your dad jokes are getting terrible.
Well, I shall not say any more crab jokes. Well, maybe one at a pinch.
Oh, good grief.
I know what it is. You're just jealous that I come up with all the best jokes, isn't it?
Well,
I tell you what, look, I'll share them with you. I won't be so shellfish. With the east and south sides of the Irish Loop under our belt, we had just one stop left on the west side of the loop at St Mary's. There is a coastal hike here called Out the Shore Hiking Trail, which starts or ends at St Mary's depending in which direction you're walking in, and we tackled this trail on a particularly cold and windy day.
go on then. Chicken. Come on then, show us it. Chicken.
We walked north and came to the trail end at Gulch Beach, where we signed the guest book, marvelled at the beauty of the lighthouse, and then read of the excitement that had spread through the town of St Mary's on the 2nd of March 1875. The excitement was caused by the sighting of a vessel trapped in the ice a couple of miles offshore. A number of the villagers saw an opportunity to salvage the vessel, and so a party of 34 men and one 14-year-old boy, John Grace, was quickly gathered, and they started out on the ice to the vessel. They spent the day on board and toward evening started back to St Mary's, but they had not travelled far when they realised that the ice had parted between them and the shore. The men would be marooned on the ice for the best part of a month before being rescued by a passing schooner. However, of an original 34 men and one boy, only 10 men survived, along with the 14-year-old John Grace. The survivors were eventually transported back to St Mary's, where they had all been presumed lost at sea. Good morning. It's just me this morning. I've left her ladyship laying in bed, looking the beauty that she is when she's fast asleep. Today I am heading into a place called Mount Pearl, which is just outside of St John's. I'm going to a mechanic shop there, a mechanic shop recommended to me by the appraiser actually that came out to assess the damage done to the vehicle. On that front, I'm pleased to say that the appraiser put his estimate of cost to repair through to the insurance company. They've accepted those costs and have now paid out in cash, so we are waiting until 24th of July. Today is very nearly the end of May, and we've got to take the car for repair on the 24th of July. So a little while to go before the damage in the accident has been repaired, but today I'm going to a mechanic shop to try and resolve some minor niggles that I've had, a couple of them for quite some time now.
So we got the prop shaft already. We had to do some modification to stop it from binding. Seems to be functioning properly. We also noticed in your steering gear on the pinion adjustment nut appears to be a little bit of a leak. Not sure if there's a serviceable seal available.
Something else to worry about later on.
If we come back to our transfer case, we had some fluid up on the sensor, which is cleaned off. Now we're going to run it and check to see if the nut is leaking or the sensor. Removed our fill plug. Showed you a neat little trick of making a dipstick out of a zip tie.
Yeah.
Our fluid is fine. We have this prop shaft greased.
Yes.
We noted a rear pinion oil seal that was sweating.
Sweating, yes, good phrase. Yeah.
We removed the differential fill and inspected the level. The level is fine. We fitted the new water filter. We've rotated tires, adjusted pressures accordingly. The next two items, we're going to run and look for that leak. Then after that, we're going to road test with the scan tool and inspect for ABS dropout at low speed.
While the service I received from Dennis was great, I left the garage feeling a little disappointed. We couldn't identify the exact location of an oil leak I knew I had. We found an oil leak I didn't know I had, and the ABS issue is one I will have to live with unless I want to spend a lot of money to not achieve very much. The noise from the prop shaft is improved, but it's not gone altogether. So, with a wallet around 400 Canadian dollars lighter, I drove home feeling a lot like many before me that have owned a Land Rover Defender. With only a handful of days left in the Avalon region, we turned our attention to the very top of the easternmost part of the island, and we took a beautiful hike to Cape St. Francis.
It was a really good day, siempre okay. Fuma mucho mari, so I feel lost in space. It was a really good day.
The hike had a little of everything. Do you know where you're going?
Yes. Cape St. Francis. To the lighthouse,
Oh,
hopefully.
very good. See you there.
La casa mientras bailamos. Okay. No puedo explicarlo, no quiero cambiarlo, solo quiero aguantar por ti. I don't wanna change this, I cannot explain it. I know it was a really good day. It was a really good day.
Now on our hike, we've just come across this in the middle of the path. We are thinking that it's probably moose that have done this, but it could be some other large deer perhaps. We'll look it up when we get back, but there is one other way we can tell. When we were in Africa, Chrissy entered into a giraffe dung spitting contest and pretty much won it, I think. So I could call upon our local expert here to have a spit and see what you think.
The poo.
I cannot explain it, I know it was a really good day. It was a really good day. Hey, hey. It was a really good day. Hey, hey.
Doing it.
Did you pull the chain?
I did.
Well done.
Whoa.
It was a really good day. It was a really good day. Hey, hey. It was a really good day. Hey, hey. It was a really good day. Hey, hey.
Leaving Cape St. Francis, we headed slightly south to St. John's, the capital of Newfoundland. We started our tour on the outskirts of St John's in the historic fishing village of Kitty Viddy. This small harbour with its narrow entrance was home to European fishermen who came for the cod fishing season. Temporary houses would be constructed along the rock faces of the harbour, and these makeshift structures only lasted one season and then had to be rebuilt the following year. Eventually, instead of returning home at the end of the season, some stayed and made Newfoundland their home. Nowadays, Kitty Viddy is a scenic tourist spot which houses the brewery, where you can buy a pint of iceberg beer made with melted iceberg water. Leaving Kitty Viddy behind, we followed the Cuckold Cove Trail, and I'll leave that with you to guess how that name came about, before we headed up the hill to the Ladies' Lookout. This viewpoint was so named for the wives and mothers that came to watch for the safe return from the sea of their husbands and sons. An added bonus we discovered was that from this location you could look down onto a bald eagle sitting on her nest. Climbing the final section brought us out to the Cabot Tower on top of Signal Hill. So named because it was in this location that Marconi received the first transatlantic wireless signal. Signal Hill and the adjacent battery provide a good view down to the entrance of St John's Harbour, and it's not hard to see how access to the harbour could be easily defended. Signal Hill also provides great views of the busy harbour and the adjacent town of St John's. The town is famous for its lively nightlife and brightly coloured houses. Now both Chrissy and I love a lighthouse. I mean, who doesn't? But just a couple of miles from St John's sits Cape Spear Lighthouse. This historic lighthouse sits on the easternmost point of North America. And looking back from the lighthouse, you can see the entrance to St John's Harbour with the town behind, and then there's Cabot Tower on Signal Hill, and just a little further along is the well-hidden entrance to Kitty Viddy Harbour. We spent enough time at the lighthouse to allow Chrissy to give it a hug, a pat on the head, and then try to push it over. Once she'd finished messing around, we headed back to Tor's Cove to prepare to leave. Job was a good one. So we're all loaded, saying goodbye to Tor's Cove and working our way now across to our first stop on our grand tour of Newfoundland at Terra Nova National Park. So we'll see you there.
Oh my God.
What?
Your dad jokes are getting terrible.
All right. I'm sorry, I forgot what I was going to say then. Okay, no, you're saying your dad joke. Say that again.
Oh my God. Your dad jokes are getting terrible.
Well, one of the reasons I was doing an Irish accent was I didn't want, after the wonderful comments I received from the last video regarding my...
What comments?
You didn't let me say my David Attenborough impression.
Oh, God. Oh, carry
Too
on.
early, you're premature.
Says him.